time to talk some NBL basketball. We might talk about the NBA as well. Some big news this morning that we awoke to, but Chris Pike is the man we turn to about all things basketball. Good afternoon to you, Pikey.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Good to be with you again.
Once again, that news that we allude to this morning, LeBron James, the decision, the second. What did you make of it, and is it what we think it is?
I think we're all assuming that he's announcing that it's his last season, aren't we? So I think that's most likely what it's going to be. And to be honest, I don't really know what else it could be. To be honest, at this point, he's certainly not going to be announcing that he's leaving the Lakers or
he's cutting Bronny. Is he cutting Bronny?
I think it could tie in that Bronny gets to hang around for one more year. So it's good news for Bronny as well. But no, I think we all assume that it is him announcing that this will be his last season, and he gets almost a 12-month retirement tour, similar to what we saw with Kobe. So I think that's the way he would like to go out. So every time he goes to certainly an Eastern Conference team in this last season, it'll be his last time playing in that side of the country. So I think that's what we'll find out, and we'll find out pretty soon. I think he's announcing it. I think it was 7 o'clock Eastern time. So I think that's what in it. I'm getting my times mixed up. It's either in a couple of hours' time or it's in 14 hours' time. But I think we'll find out pretty soon. So I think that's what we're assuming. And to be honest, it'll be pretty surprising and a little bit underwhelming if it's anything else, I think, at this point.
Yeah, what a remarkable career, Chris, and a wonderfully long career. Yeah. And he's been, I said this earlier to Seb, you can argue for the rest of time who the greatest player to ever play is. Michael Jordan was the player of his generation, and LeBron's been the player of his generation, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't argue that, and, comparing players over generations is going to be an ongoing battle, and you would imagine the people that are now, in the prime of their lives defending LeBron as the best player, there's somebody in, 20 years' time that might be saying the same about, Victor Wembanyama or somebody else. So it's always going to be an ongoing thing. But, yeah, he came in a superstar when he came in straight out of high school. He played at a high level. He was sort of an MVP contending level player very quickly, and he really hasn't dropped off. He's showing very little signs of dropping off physically, and it helps when you've got that amount of money to be able to spend on your body and all of the work you can put into it to make sure your body stays at such a high level. But, yeah, to be able to have done this for 20 years now and still be playing at a high level, and there's no reason to suggest he won't still be one of the top at least 10 players in the league again this season if it is his last season. So, yeah, you can argue whether or not he's better than MJ or not, and it's a debate you can never win either way. And to be honest, from my point of view, to have seen most of the careers of both those guys, I feel pretty privileged. And, to see him now for one more year, and I think they'll have a pretty good year as well. It'll be pretty exciting to see him with a full season alongside Luka Doncic as well. So I think it's going to be a pretty exciting ride for one more season too.
In good shape at the moment, Luka Doncic. $15 at the moment on Tab Touch for the LA Lakers. It would be a fairy tale finish.
I think we spoke about them last week and they were 31, so they're coming very quickly.
Maybe on the back of this news.
Yeah, maybe. We talked about them last week. I thought they were way too long of odds, and potentially this little bit of motivation might be something that tips them over the edge.
Seeing a bit of the NBA preseason games, you won't go into it too much, but anything really jump out off the page from what you've seen over the results over the last couple of days?
Not really, but from a local point of view, it was great to see the New Orleans Pelicans come down here and play those couple of games in Melbourne, and to take it so seriously. Like, everybody on that Pelicans organisation took it very seriously. I think they had a travelling party of something like 150 people. They took it very seriously. They brought everyone from their front office staff to their cheerleaders to their mascots to their broadcast team to everybody you could imagine. So they took it very seriously. Their players took it seriously, which was great to see. Zion Williamson obviously looked great and only played for 30 minutes across the two games, but he looked terrific out there, and two very big crowds, 30,000 people across the two games there in Melbourne against Melbourne United and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. So, yeah, from that point of view, I think it was terrific. And I think it'll only lead to more NBA teams coming down to play in Australia in the future because it went off so well. And I wouldn't imagine I wouldn't be surprised to see this time next year if we see two teams come down. I think they could play each other and then also play a game each against an NBL team, and I think that's probably the next step which this could lead to for next year as well.
Ever see an NBA game here between two NBA teams, or is that a bridge too far?
I don't think it is a bridge too far. A regular season game. I think the fact that we're seeing them willing to play in other countries now. I mean, you get to see them go to Europe and London and Paris and even to Mexico. I know the time difference is the one thing that'll kill it, because it means that you either have to play similar to what we see when the UFC comes here to Perth. It either has to be very early in the morning so it fits in with the US time, or you have to play it. If you played in our time, then it's virtually being seen by nobody on TV back in the US. So that's the only thing against it. But I absolutely wouldn't be surprised to see it happen within the next 5 years. I think it's a very realistic possibility.
Let's turn our attention to our local competition, the NBL, and that was a really good response after a lacklustre first quarter from our Perth Wildcats. They started extremely slow, but this young Jaron Riley kid, he can certainly make an impact on the court with what he's been able to produce so far.
He's been fantastic. He's become the best point guard on the team very, very quickly, and he's only played 20 minutes of his entire NBL career. But for a team that I do think that point guard spot was the big question mark over them coming into the season. There's not really a genuine point guard on the roster. Mason Jones is better as a combo guard. Ben Henschel's better as a combo guard. Elijah Pepper the same. Dante Russo-Nance is the other one who's a point guard. But I think very quickly Jaron Riley's overtaken him. I think he's looking a better prospect in that role, and it's remarkable to think. We spoke about it last week, what he did against the Breakers in that last 6 minutes and 53, where the Wildcats were able to outscore them by 21 points with him out there. And he played 31 minutes last Thursday night, and they outscored the Illawarra Hawks by 25 points. So he's played 20 minutes in total of an NBL career, and the Wildcats are plus 46 in those 20 minutes. It's absolutely incredible, and he's doing it through hustle and heart. He doesn't need to be out there scoring because he's got Joe Luala-Chul, he's got Christian Doolittle, he's got Dylan Windler, he's got a lot of other weapons out there, but he's just being a cool head with the ball in his hands, and then he's just playing with great hustle and energy at the defensive end, and he's having a great impact. I'd be very surprised by this point if he doesn't start now on Friday night. I think he'll take that starting spot off Dante Russo-Nance, and I mean, I hope John really has the faith in his son to do that, because I know JR's a little bit reluctant and he's a little bit worried about the optics of it, favouring his son. But right now, his son deserves to be playing more minutes, and I hope John's willing to back him in.
Well, on the optics, Pikey, I'm not sure if we eventually actually spoke about this, but myself and JL did off the top of the show. The optics around it being his son after losing one of the fan favourites from Bryce Cotton, in the off-season. For the Perth Wildcats not to mention that this was John Riley's son in any press release and the social media announcements, I thought that was strange, and it was clearly quite quickly picked up as well by the fans out there. What did you think of that?
Yeah, that was the thing that bewildered me as soon as the announcement was made, because he's coming off a really good college career. So he had a really good 4-year college career at Northern Colorado. He's a highly credentialed player, and he's a player that deserves to be playing in the NBL. So there was no question over his credentials of deserving a spot. So that's why I was very surprised at the Wildcats. It almost felt like they were trying to hide the fact that he was the coach's son. And
it's not like his last name's Smith either. It's quite clear that it's
exactly.
Really.
Exactly. There's not too many Rilleys around, you're right, especially that look as alike as they do as father and son. So I thought it was bizarre that they were trying to almost hide the fact. If I was the club, I would have just got on the front foot and acknowledged it and said that he's the coach's son. I mean, the strangest thing of the announcement was there was even a quote in there from John where he talked about his son without even mentioning he was his son. He just talked about him like he was a normal player. But, it was bizarre. But I think I think it is just John being reluctant to look like he's playing favourites and trying to make sure it looks like he's treating him like he is every other player, and there's every reason to think he is. There's no there's no suggestion that there's any sort of favouritism
No.
here, because he deserves his spot. And now, over the last 2 games, he deserves his spot. I know John's very reluctant to talk about him, and I can understand that, but he just needs to not worry about that. And when they've got their coach and players' hats on between them, just act like you're not father and son anymore, and treat him like you would anybody else. And I think on merits, he deserves to be playing more minutes and starting as of this Friday night.
The best father-son combination since Bronny James and LeBron James, I think.
Well, now there's a talking point in itself. Hey, Ignite Cup. Ignite Cup starts tomorrow. Now, as a concept, I've already seen an in-season tournament in the NBA. Is this just an attempt at a replica tournament in the NBL? How do you think this will go over the season, Pikey?
Yeah, my concern over it is that it's all played over Wednesday night. So that's traditionally the worst, one of the worst nights. The earlier in the week you play, traditionally, the harder it is to get people into your building. So I think the challenge will be to get people to these games on Wednesday nights. And I don't know how all of the clubs are dealing with it, but I know from a Wildcats point of view, their home Wednesday night games aren't included in the membership package, so that makes it more of a challenge. So if anyone wants to go along, they have to pay extra to go along on top of what they're already paying to go for every other regular season game. So from that point of view, I think it's tricky. From a league point of view, I know they like to try different things. They're not, I wouldn't say it's that innovative considering the similarities to the NBA Cup. So but basically all it is giving a couple of extra games per season to every team. They're all played on a Wednesday night, and then there's a little bit of money available for 2 teams at the end where they'll play in a final on the Gold Coast come February, and whoever wins that will get a bit of extra money. I think there's $400,000 up for grabs. So I think 300 of that goes to the winning team, and so there's a little bit of money there, which is nice for the players. So that there's some sort of motivation there from a player's point of view, and these games do count to regular season games, so they are every bit as important as every other game. But I'm not sure they're going to catch on in terms of being a great, popular product for the people to attend, because Wednesday night makes it difficult. But yeah, it gives us more games in the season, which I think is a good thing. So that's a bonus, and a little bit of extra money for the players, which is never a bad thing, but it doesn't necessarily help the punters out there.
All right, let's get into these games then. The doubleheader tomorrow afternoon, 2:30 p.m, the first local time here in Perth. New Zealand Breakers taking on the Hawks. The Breakers $2.75 and the Hawks coming off that loss to the Wildcats last weekend, $1.45. Let's get Pikey's picks for this game.
Well, neither team have won a game yet, which makes it a little bit more important, but I've got much graver concerns for the Breakers than I have for the Hawks right now. I think the Hawks will figure it out, and JaVale McGee was very good again last week, and a lot of pressure on Tyler Harvey. I think we talked last week about how there's a lot of pressure going to that Thursday night game on both Mason Jones for the Wildcats and Ja'Cory McLaughlin for the Hawks. Unfortunately for Illawarra, McLaughlin had another tough game, so he only had, I think, 13 points on 3 of 12 shooting. So a lot of pressure on him right now to stand up as their point guard, especially when Dave O'Hickey is still out injured for another couple of weeks. But I'm not sure there's a way out of this for the Breakers right now. They're 0-4 and haven't really been that competitive in any of those games, including, I know they were leading against the Wildcats, but for most of that game they were struggling as well. Their imports are struggling. Their coach Petri Koppinen looks like he's struggling for answers right now, and they got 2 games this weekend which look pretty tough for them as well. So all of a sudden, if they go to 0-6, I think we might be seeing a coaching change already. We might be seeing an import or two shown the door as well. So I think the Hawks, pretty comfortably, I think they'll get their first win as defending champs.
Can they cover the line at 5.5?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be a double figure win.
Yeah, the Breakers' tough season will continue, according to Chris Pike. The second game of the 2 is a lot tighter. The Sydney Kings and Melbourne United, 2 superstar clubs with lots of strong players and very passionate fan bases. The Kings $1.82, Melbourne United $1.98. Not much in the line betting here. Is it as tight as the market suggests at Tab Touch Pikey this game?
I think so. I mean, Melbourne have looked to be the best team so far this season that we've seen. They've looked terrific across their first 3 games in the NBL, and they were really good against the Pelicans on Friday night as well. That was a 4-point game with only a couple of minutes to go, so they were terrific. But I I'm willing to back in the Kings to get this one and hand Melbourne their first loss of the season. I think the absence of Shea Ili for Melbourne is crucial. He's their most important player. So he injured a hamstring in that game against the Pelicans last Friday night. He's going to miss potentially a month of the season, which really hurts. And Chris Golding also not back yet for this game. So that's two pretty important pieces. They've still got a lot of talent to cover them, but I thought there were some pretty decent signs from the Kings when they got their first win of the season against the Breakers as well. And Kendrick Davis and Matthew Dellavedova were pretty good together in the backcourt. And Delly playing for the first time against his old team will be a little bit of an added interest for this game as well. But I think the Kings will hand Melbourne their first loss of the season.
Okay, what about this game on Thursday night? The 36ers with Bryce Colton looking the good so far, taking on the Jack Jumpers. This one, the way of the 36ers at the moment, and betting $1.38 to the Jack Jumpers, 3.05 the line at 6.
Oh, it's absolutely closer than that. You can't rule out the Jack Jumpers, and they're coming off 3 straight wins on the road, and they're playing some really good basketball. Josh Bannon and Will Magnay in that front court together are looking terrific. They've got some injury concerns of their own. David Johnson's out with a hamstring injury for a few weeks, but they've managed to find a very handy replacement. TJ Starks has stepped in, and he's only here as a replacement for David Johnson, but he hadn't even trained with the team when he played last Saturday night against the Bullets and stepped on the court and had 18 points for them, so he gives them a nice little spark as well. So I think this will be a closer game than that suggests, but Adelaide looking pretty good. Bryce Cotton's clearly the MVP favourite already after 2 games with Adelaide. He was great again in their win in Cairns last week. Simon Cheatham's fitting in very nicely. Isaac Humphries, I think, is enjoying the fact that he's got a little bit more responsibility without Montrezl Harrell, and I think they're going to look back and think that they dodged a bullet with Montrezl not ending up coming back. So I think that's going to actually help Adelaide be a better team this season. And his replacement, Nick Rakicevic, already played his first game up in Cairns last week and looked pretty good in his 16 minutes with 8 points and 8 rebounds. So having said all that, I think it'll be a closer game than the market suggests, but I'll stick with Bryce and Adelaide to keep the winning going.
And lastly, with the games that are up, available markets at Tab Touch at the moment, Cairns and Perth on Friday night. Adam Ford, a good former Wildcats man, we know, at the helm of the Taipans. The Wildcats have found a bit of form and a bit of consistency, and they're the favourites there despite the road trip. $1.52, the Wildcats, the Taipans $2.55, the line at 4.5 points. Is it a Wildcats win and a comfortable one?
I think so, but gee, it's impossible to get a read on the Taipans right now. So they've played 4 games and they've had 2 losses by 30-plus points. They lost to the Phoenix first up, and then last week they got completely blown away by Adelaide. But in between, they had 2 pretty good wins against Brisbane and Sydney. So they're tough to read right now. I think their fortunes very much rely on Jack McVeigh. He had a tough game last week against Adelaide, but prior to that, he had 2 pretty good games in their wins. So I don't think the matchup on Christian Doolittle is a good one for him. I'd back Doolittle to probably get the better of that matchup, and as a result, they don't really have a good matchup for Joe Luala-Chul. I think he'll be a bit too nimble for Marcus Lee. So, yeah, I fully expect the Wildcats to go up to Cairns and get the win and start to build some momentum this season and come back. I think it's for their own Ignite Cup game next Wednesday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So overall, Pikey's picks, the Hawks at -5.5, the Kings head-to-head $1.82. Does that sound right?
Yep.
36ers head-to-head at $1.38.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'll be pretty close.
Wildcats $1.52 for $7.25. Just before we let you go, the John Riley conversation we've been having this afternoon. We're speaking with Sean Lindsay from Channel 9 Perth today, who attended their press conferences. He said it wasn't exactly a dinner party that he'd like to be invited to. Your thoughts on the two fellas and their charisma?
Yeah, well, John's a funny one. He's got a natural charisma, but he's naturally guarded in front of the camera as a coach. So, it's a funny one. And Jaron's still finding his feet. I think we'll see him come out of his shell a little bit. But if you turn the cameras off, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit of fun at a dinner party. I imagine they'd get stuck into each other. I think they would throw a lot of barbs at each other. I wouldn't mind seeing a shootout between them as well. Maybe we can organise that at some point and see if it's the father or son with the shooting touch.
Well, if you ask the Wildcats themselves, they'll say, oh, why? They're not father-son, according to them. We'll just admit that, Fathead. Hey, Pike, it's been great to chat once again here on Tuesday Drive. Best of luck with your selections over the next couple of days, and we'll talk to you soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks, guys.